Hi guys, welcome to Bioka Gyan. So let's learn the first chapter of class 11 biology, that's the living world. Okay, so I'm gonna teach biology for today's session. Okay, so he is Ernst Mayr. He is the Darwin of 20th century. He is the Darwin of 20th century. Keep in mind. Okay, what living is as opposed to non-living. Basically, how are living beings different from non-living beings? Living beings reproduce, grow, metabolize, they respond to any external or internal stimuli, which non-living things cannot do. Okay, so let's start with the chapter. What is species? Species, any organism, be it microorganism or plant or a giant organism like human being or a microorganism like bacteria or virus, each one of them, each different type is called as species, and there are approximately 1.7 to 1.8 million species which are identified till date. Okay, and these all organisms, be it human beings, the giant ones, or bacteria, viruses, the microorganisms, they make the biodiversity. Okay, the biodiversity is defined as number and types of organisms on earth. Okay, fine. So now, as there are these many organisms, these many species exist, we have to name each of them and categorize each of them, and then identify them. That, like, obviously you are not going to name anything so randomly, right? So you have to characterize them. What are their features, and based on those features and characteristics you have to name them. Okay, so nomenclature. What is the nomenclature? Is standardized naming of living organisms so that they are known by the same name all over the world. For example, mango, in Hindi we call it aam, in English we call it mango, but there should be a scientific name which is known by whole world. That's Mangifera indica. Okay, so basically, and then identify. How do you name an organism? After identifying it, after naming its characteristics and describing it properly, we do the identification. So these two processes is known as scientific naming. After identification, we do the nomenclature, which is called as scientific naming. Okay, so who does this process, identifying and naming the organism? Who decides whether this is correct and should be followed all the worldwide? Is ICBN and ICZN. B stands for botanical, Z stands for zoological, and the full form is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature and Zoological Nomenclature. So botanical is based on plants, the naming of plants, plant kingdom, and zoological, the animal kingdom. Okay, so these two are responsible for naming, scientific naming. Okay, so scientific names. There is only one scientific name for each organism. They are not repeated. For example, Mangifera indica is just for mango. It's not for any other plant or animal or anything. Okay, so the scientific name has two components. One is genus, genetic name, and the other is species, which is called as specific epithet. This is known as there are two components, it is known as binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomial nomenclature. Okay, this was introduced to us by scientist Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so you cannot just name it randomly and write it randomly. There are few rules which are to be followed while using the binomial nomenclature. The name is in Latin. Mangifera indica is a Latin name which is written or typed in italics. Okay, the first word is always supposed to be genus and the second word is always supposed to be species. Then if the name is handwritten, then it should be underlined separately as given here. See below, Mangifera indica. Then genus starts with capital letter as given here, and the species starts with small letter, indica, starting with I. Okay, so then there's one more thing which is not included in the rules, but yeah, scientist name is added after species. Okay, for example, this Mangifera indica name was given by Linnaeus, so they added the abbreviation of the name, that is Lin. So the scientific name of mango is Mangifera indica Lin. Okay, now going to the classification. What is classification? Grouping anything into categories based on their characteristics is called as classification. Each category is known as taxa. Okay, now for example, there are so many breeds of dogs like German Shepherd and all, but in common they are called as dogs. So we classified those group of animals as dogs, or four-legged creatures, we name them as animals. Okay, so that way there are different types of classification, and each category like dog, cats, trees, in there are each one, I mean, see, one classification name, be it dog, it is one taxa, cats one taxa, trees the other taxa, that way. So what is taxa? Process of classifying. Okay, so taxa is each category. Now process of classifying these living organisms into different taxa is called taxonomy. Like dogs, naming these creatures as dog, the others as cat, the others as trees. This process is called as taxonomy. There are four basic processes of taxonomy. What are those? First is characterization. You will characterize the organism, then you will identify the organism, then you will classify the organism, and then you will nomenclature. You will do the naming of the organism based on the rules, binomial nomenclature rules. Okay, so moving on to what is systematics. Systematics is a Latin word which means systematic arrangement of organisms. This was also introduced by Linnaeus. He also named his publication as Systema Naturae. Important question, this may be asked as an MCQ, remember. So what's classification? Classification is like, classification includes hierarchy of steps. It is not like just classify it. There are like number of steps to name and classify an organism, right? So each step is called category, and each like all the taxonomic categories, they make one hierarchy. So it's a hierarchy of steps, taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, then moving on to each rank, also called as taxon. It is the unit of classification. Remember this is important. Each rank or taxon is called as unit of classification. So let's learn the levels of taxons. There are in general say 6 levels of taxon, 7 levels of taxon. Let's move from high level to the low level. So on the major basis there's kingdom, then it's phylum, then class, order, family, genus, and species. Species, each organism, only one organism, one species. Kingdom, so many organisms, one kingdom. Keep in mind. Okay, so basically if you try to group so many organisms, then they will have less number of characteristics in common. Whereas if you try to group less number of organisms in one group, like genus, there are only like one genus has only 2-3 species, they'll have more characteristics in common, right? So that's why as we go from high level to low level taxon, the number of similarities keep increasing. And the mnemonic to remember this levels are keep pot clean or family gets sick. Keep, K for kingdom, P phylum, C class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, remember this point. As we go down from kingdom to species, the characteristic or the similarities between the organisms increases. Okay, we have different examples like here given. See, this man. Okay, let's take human being, a man, and we'll classify them into, we'll go from species to kingdom. Okay, so genus and species, they are together called as Homo sapiens. Okay, Homo sapiens. Then they belong to the family Hominidae. Remember, either Idae in last or Aci. Idae for animals, Animalia, and Aci for Plantae kingdom, represents a family. Then ales in last, mostly for the plant kingdom, represents order. Then Mammalia, as the mammals, the mans are included in the mammals. It is of the class Mammalia. Division, it falls under the phylum Chordata, and the kingdom Animalia. They're classified under Animalia. This was it for the chapter. I hope you all understood. Any doubts, keep asking, keep going. Thank you.